Welcome back to our mini-series, The Lone Screenplay Winners, where we talk about films that solely won an Oscar for the writing categories here on the Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast. My name is Matthew Anderson, and today we have back on the podcast in what feels like forever, the wonderful and lovely Valentina Starcovich. How are you doing today? Did I pronounce that name right?
Yeah, you pronounced it correctly. Hi there, Matthew. And yeah, it's been like ages. But yeah, doing great and glad to be back.
Awesome. Yeah. And it was nice to have you back on, especially now that's been like, I believe our last episode recording for the show might have been for The Lobster, which a
Yeah.
lot has happened, not just in terms of films we've watched over the last couple of years, but even just, stuff going on in our own personal lives. So, we actually right before we started recording, we had a little bit of time to talk about what's been going on, and especially with the upcoming award season prospects we may or may not be getting. So, but that's discussion's gonna be kept out of the it just keep it back in the corners there. So while Valentina and I are on our are flying through the windy airs. We have our ACs going on. At least I do on my end. I'm pretty sure Valentina does as well, because it's that kind of season. It's summertime. It's getting a bit hot, even when the sun is dying down. It's still humid here, and so yeah, we gotta deal with what we got. So, anyways, yeah. So I think if it's all right with you, Valentina, I guess we could just get started with our spoiler-filled discussion for Anatomy of a Fall. The film was directed and co-written by Justine Trier. I might have mispronounced the last name. Sorry.
I don't think anybody knows exactly how that last name is pronounced.
Okay,
Especially
so
if you have Joaquin Trier and it's like my mind just blows out.
so even she hasn't corrected that. Okay, perfect.
No,
um,
she never.
All right. So anyway, so she directed and co-wrote the script for Anatomy of a Fall with actor-screenwriter Arthur Harrer, who contributed to the screenplay as well. Now, the premise of the film, in case you are not aware of what the film is, I don't know why you haven't. Watch the movie first and then come back in here and let's talk about it in full. But essentially, the premise of the film revolves around a writer trying to prove her innocence in her husband's death, when its main witness happens to be her half-blinded son. So, before we begin our discussion, I might as well ask, just like we did for The Lobster, why was it when I asked you to come back on the podcast, and we had a couple of films that you and I discussed off air as potentials, why was it that this was the one you wanted to talk about specifically?
Well, I think Anatomy of a Fall was definitely my favorite film of 2023. Yeah, it was
Ooh.
2023. And I have a very personal story with Justine Trier's film. I've been following her career like 7 years now. I never thought she was gonna end up being an Academy Award winner, to be honest, because at least before Anatomy of a Fall, she wasn't precisely the kind of director filmmaker, because she always screenwrite her screenplays that was actually even liked in France. When she ended up just presenting film in the last film before Anatomy of a Fall was Seville with Virginia Fira, Sandra Hüller, Gaspar Ullier, and Adele Exarchopoulos, which is somehow like a massive star cast back in France. I believe it didn't score any César nominations. Like, she was not liked at all. Arthur Harrar, who happens to be also her partner in the real life, is a little bit more lucky. I mean, he's done pretty different type of films, and he's also an actor, but herself didn't. And so I think when she ended up winning the Palme d'Or, the whole speech that got a political blah blah blah, when the neon bodied and everything, and the whole track was like people were not even thinking that the film was gonna be ended up scoring Oscar nominations and her winning. I mean, in the César, she was like 3 or 4 César just for her. So I think it's a very interesting film, not only because I think the film, I mean, she kept her personal style because the film's very stylish, but also I don't think that people ever thought that film was gonna be ended up winning any Oscar. And also the chances, I think everything went in her favor, even though everything was against her.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit coy about the Oscars prospects. At least I'll try to be as best as I can, because I want to save it for later on in the episode after our discussion. But So this is the first Justine Triet film I'd seen. I haven't seen any of her work before. In fact, I didn't even know who she was until I heard, oh, just because I believe this was around the time where I started familiarizing myself with the Cannes Film Festival, because last year we had just seen Ruben Östlund win the Palme d'Or for Triangle of Sadness, which was another Neon distributed film. Hey, there's a record going on here. There's a correlation, so to speak. So
He was the president of the jury of that year. I mean, both. I mean, he was the president of the jury, and Julia Ducournau, the director from Titan, was also part of the jury.
the year that Anatomy of a Fall won the Palme
The
d'Or.
year that Anatomy
Okay.
of Fall won Palme d'Or.
Okay. So yeah. So I wasn't familiar too much with, the director. I didn't know the actor, or any of the actors involved, especially Sandra Hüller, which I don't. I think the only film at the time I might have heard her from in the past was Tony
Tony
Erdmann, which got nominated for an international film Oscar years before this, and that was
Yeah,
pretty much it.
2014, 2015 was around that year.
Yeah, like 2016 it came out. I know it lost to The Salesman, I'm pretty sure, for international film.
Yeah.
And I remember because I talked about it on Juan Carlos Ollano's show. So, yeah, so I didn't really know too much about the people involved with this. Again, other than the fact that Neon distributed it and that this was going to be some kind of awards prospects film. And I didn't even think until I want to say around like Golden Globes, PGA nominations, where I thought, okay, maybe this actually could be like a big awards player and isn't just like a screenplay only type thing, And again, we'll get into the whole why it wasn't submitted for international film later on in the episode. But as far as the film itself goes, my thoughts on it are about the same as they were before, in that I like the movie a lot, but I'm not head over heels with it like everyone else is. And really it comes down to the biggest strong points for me about why this film worked enough for myself were the performances by everyone I thought were terrific, especially Sandra Hüller, who's really good, and this kid actor in the film. I'm reading up my notes here on the computer.
I know
Milo
his.
Machado
My,
Grainer.
yes.
He is terrific in this. Like, in terms of his performance, acting-wise, I thought he was stunning in terms of how good of an actor he was. I don't know if he's an actual blind kid or if they have him play
he's not
fake.
blind.
Oh, he's
No,
not
no,
blind.
no, no,
Okay.
He's not.
Well, he did a pretty good job with it either way. And I thought it was terrific, the fact that Justine, if nothing else, she's gained my utmost respect at being one of the few directors I know who is able to direct kid actors and get a great performance out of them, but also still buy them as children within the story. Like she's not using Milo's character as a way of like, oh, look at how sad he is, or oh, we don't know how to use this child actor right, so we'll just put him off in the corner and just be miserable or depressed or whatever, not saying much words or whatever. It's like, but no, she clearly wrote a fair amount of material for Milo to work off of, even having a couple of great monologues towards the end of the film. And also the screenplay, I think, is pretty good by Justine and Arthur Herrera, which it's a pretty good screenplay winner, I must say. Just in terms of the concept, I think is really well executed, and even the setup is really good too. Like how they structured the film in very much this like somewhat interwoven, multi-layered, not narrative, but like multi-narrative crime, where the answers, like whatever answer you're gonna find, it's not gonna be that easy. And they've established early on that this case is going to be very much one based on theory rather than actual evidence. Like, the evidence will only get you so far, and even then the evidence itself has loopholes. Like they mentioned about the blood spatters, about the husband falling to his death. They mentioned about the fact that if the kid was able to hear so well, then about the parents talking with each other before he runs off with his dog, then they'd have to be screaming at volume, even though Sandra Hüller's character clearly states, like, we were not shouting at all. and yet the kid was able, so things like that. So that was something I admired about the film, and even the argument itself with where we see the recording for it, which I'll get into in just a moment, is really good, both in terms of the performances and the writing itself, dialogue wise. I think it's really good. Now you said already before that this was your favorite film of that year. Would you care to go a bit more in detail with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I go again whenever I watch. I mean, she has like 3 or 4 films before this, which I think this is not even my favorite film of hers. I think my favorite one is Sybil, which I think it's like the same thing that happens with Anatomy of a Fall. A lot of things are going on, and you get the perspective of all the characters. In this one, I mean, you don't have exactly the perspective of the husband, but somehow you're into it. But you even have the perspective of the dog. I mean, it's like the dog is not there just because it's a dog. The dog even has a purpose
Yeah.
of being there. But I think I was very like, okay, I really want to watch. I really want to see what she's bringing out to, and I think it was a very interesting year. I mean, we already talked about it, but you got Emma Stone for Poor Things, which Poor Things is a really good film, and it's also a really good book. I mean, I read the book. You got Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, it was a very top contender year. But somehow she was the one that was different. She was the one that was doing something that was totally out of what you expect in Hollywood, especially in award season, and somehow still was a really good. I mean, it wasn't just an European film, because that's something that even would happen in Europe. People were watching, especially the whole trial thing, and they were just like not connecting completely. So I think it was in a universal language. But at the same time, she was preserving her own style. She has a very personal style. It's like she doesn't. Whenever she does a film, this one, then she gets one that's called In Bed with Victoria. That's also starring Virginie Fira, who is the actress from Benedetta, and now she's doing a film with Jodie Foster. It's pretty famous in France. She always presents this very powerful female character in the center, but at the same time it's somehow like an anti-hero. It's not the character you want to be. You don't want to humiliate this woman. You don't care what's happening with her, but at the same time it's so attractive what's happening around her that you can't stop seeing. And I mean, she repeats. She already worked with Sandra Hüller. She mentioned in a lot of interviews before doing this film that in Sybil, Sandra Hüller is a very supporting character. And at the same time, she steals the show. She gets a very precise scene on a boat that she starts screaming and she's doing somehow monologue. That isn't exactly a monologue, but still, it's a very powerful scene. So she said, I want to work with her back again. And the process she mentioned, Justine Triet mentioned, because I mean it's a pair, it's a 2-person show, but still it's like she was the writer, she was the director, he was just over there helping, of course, but the project was somehow hers. She calls it, Justine Triet calls it her middle-age crisis savior.
Yeah.
Because she wrote it during the pandemic and blah blah blah, and even the script when you tend to read it, it says very naive, drinking word. It even has drawings. I get it's time new romance, so it's like she shows you it's inside her mind, but it has so many components. I do value the thing about the structure of the characters. You have the attorney that is Swanner Lord. He does an impressive job. He's a very well. I mean, he's a great actor, but at the same time, it's like everyone it's really good at their own character, but it's not somehow like trying to be more than the others, which is something that happens. So I think she's a very like an orchestra director. We try to emulate Leonard Bernstein back that year, but she's a very good orchestra director, and everything works well together. For me, she doesn't innovate in this film, which is something I do. What happens, like everything in the film, if you just get it together, the script, the direction is quite good. She has her own style. She doesn't try to improvise. She doesn't want to do magic things. It's very well acted. It's very well directed, but doesn't innovate. Doesn't tell you anything new. And then in the ending, but still, it's like a mystery. I mean, she even based it in Anatomy of a Murder and blah blah blah. And then you get like, I think the question about whether she killed it or not is pretty clear, but still engages into a debate whether it's like, okay, is she innocent? But at the same time, if I say she's innocent and she's not, I don't have the tools to know it. Uh, but I think it was the most, or for me, it was the most original. But the year was very particular. Oppenheimer, everything. I mean, you had so many things going on, and at the same time, you had her that just was pulling out everything.
Yeah, this definitely does stand out. Even from the Best Picture lineup, it stands out differently from the bunch. You're not dealing with a big biopic movie like Oppenheimer or Maestro. You're not dealing with this big fantasy movie like Poor Things or Barbie. But you are still dealing with something that I think audiences are still craving. I mean, enough audiences crave for this, as this was a box office success. Maybe not in the US, but internationally it was at least. And you have someone like Justine who is directing, and again, this is the first film I've seen of her, but I noticed on this rewatch there are things that she does with the camera, both with how the camera zooms in on certain shots, or even how the camera moves around, or how it's placed or angled. It reminded me a lot of the more foreign language, or like, again, European art house style of cinema back from the 70s. Like there are shots in the movie that it sticks in my mind, like how when the lawyer comes over, I believe it was Vincent was the character's name, comes over to the house and discusses with Sandra in regards with the where everything was, like where in the house were they and such, and we see this like unfinished renovated area that the husband was working on originally, Samuel, before he got killed. And we see an underhead shot, like right below the floorboards underneath, where as we see Sandra walking towards Vincent, and it's one shot in the film, and I'm like, that's a really good way of showing us that despite like in a weird way, I don't know if it was, if you would agree with me to this, but it almost seemed like the director was trying to emphasize Sandra's character's fear of heights, so to speak. Especially an unstable sense of height.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the floorboard's not even finished. The only thing that's held together is this like big long board that's not even stapled. It's not even nailed in to get to the boards. And I thought something like that was really really interesting, even from like an editing choice, to show that while they're having a conversation, she's walking over the floorboards, and I'm like, okay, like any other like amateur editor or director, they would just have it be like the shot reverse shot and not even show a simple shot of the camera going underneath the boards. Or even as we're going through when Milo's character is interviewed in the beginning of the trial, where the camera moves back and forth, and without having to do like shot reverse shot of the two prosecutors for the defense and the country, I guess. I'm not really sure about. I personally am not familiar with French's ways of courtroom drama, how that turns out. But at the same time, I thought, but again, she was still able to get me invested enough in the story that her directing stands out just enough to where it isn't just, it's not like a blandly directed film, like a courtroom drama you would expect, say, that of, Aaron Sorkin's Trial of the Chicago 7, where it's very much like, you kind of know what you're getting. It's very typical, standard, courtroom drama type of thing. Here's your master shot, here's your close-up, here's your medium shots. That's it. We're not really going to do a whole lot with it. But Justine is able to provide enough style and capabilities to show that we are going to get more than what we bargained for as audience members. And even before we get to the recording itself, which I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. Before we get to the recording, it's the first time ever where we see how the courtroom would react every time, like the moment that the trial for the day starts, where everyone rises up and then they wait for all the judges to proceed in, and it's like, okay, and so it's very similar to how the U.S. courts is, where we all rise for the judge in defense, in position or whatever, and then we stay seated, things like that. But again, like just simple things like that really showcase how similar but different a court system like France is to one in the United States. But yeah, but even that, I still have questions in terms of like, how are we able to proceed with things like this? Like, it's very weird, like how they position the the defense with her
Mm-hmm.
with their client, and then even with the prosecutor for the country or county. I don't know. I've never been to France, so but yeah, no. But if nothing else, it was really intriguing. Again, just the fact that Justine Triet was able to take something so simplistic, bare bones, like we've seen this done before many times, and she adds some sort of style to it, and even adding to the the recording itself, like jumping into it and then coming out of it, I thought was really good. Out of curiosity, what was your take on in terms of like the recording, or even how how we transition into and outwards? Like, did you? I'd assume you really enjoyed that scene a lot of us actually seeing the recording itself.
I think that the film itself has so many criticisms towards that, because apparently I have no idea how French juries work, but apparently that's not how the courtroom in France works.
Okay.
It's quite different. I mean, because of the type of law, blah blah blah. So she was like, at the same time, whenever someone asks her, or she was just into why you're doing this, she was like, okay, because I wanted to, because she tried to do a typical courtroom in order to use that and put it together. But if you think about it, it makes sense, and also the fact that it takes you out of the context in France. The main character was in fact German, doesn't speak French. She was living in France. She was speaking in English. So it was trying to tell you this. I'm not trying to make it real, but at the same time, I'm not trying to disconnect from reality, which I think that's pretty good. So she was trying to play with that courtroom, that typical courtroom dramas from the 90s, and then taking elements into the subtle, yeah, because it's got very subtle ways of telling things that's French film tells you, and very European film. So she was just using two resources completely different in order to pull together a film with a universal language, because it has a lot of things. I mean, Justin Triet himself, I mean, wrote a film and ended up winning an Oscar for a film that it's basically not spoken, or at least half of the film is not spoken in French, and she barely spoke English. So I think that's very very good, because she had to put a lot of resources. And once again, if you read the script, you have so many things and so many indications that you put it into together. I mean, they both of them put it together. That makes more sense, even more of the dialogue. For me, about the recording and everything, I think the whole trial, whenever they put you to trial, it's like, I guess it's 50%, or a lot of things are going on in the courtroom. I think she plays a lot with the sense about not only the recording but also the flashbacks, and it's a resource that she's always doing it. She uses the flashback, but at the same time she doesn't try to put it together like, okay, this is the whole truth, and oh, you're gonna have some magic revelation with it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's something that goes very very well. But I mean, for me, some very typical moment is like whenever you get the revelation about the flashback and the recording, and of course the fight, because you got the recording of the fight and you got the fight itself.
Yeah.
So it's like it makes you a visual thing in order to, okay, I have the recording, this is what's happening, and of course if I only hear this, if I only listen to what is happening, my perspective is going to be one. Then what happens if you actually try to put it into the mind of what happened in fact? And I think, I mean, of course the monologue, it's everybody remembers the monologue. I think, yeah, of course, it's one of the greatest parts of the film. I don't think
Yeah.
it's the greatest, but I mean, you have the moment. It's the moment. It's the moment of Sandra Hüller. Even when Sandra Hüller won the César was presented by Juliette Binoche, and Juliette Binoche actually pointed out not the monologue. She pointed out the very beginning when she's being interviewed by
Yes.
the writers like journalists, and the journal says about time, and Sergio Hiller says time is not a problem. And she was like, she got with that moment. And then if you think about it, whenever it happens, it's like time, it's a very crucial thing for the character. because time could actually end up changing her life. Time, just a second is what happens with the husband. Whenever he
Yep.
commits suicide, he was murdered, whatever, ends up with his life. Times is also what in the courtroom has in order to take a decision, and also after, for example, that time, whenever they listen to the recording, whenever they had this thing about them fighting, and then the whole thing about them fighting, and the vision of the son. Uh, so I think it's quite remarkable that how she puts together, and I think Justine Triet as a filmmaker, not only as a screenwriter with Arthur, she pulls it together something that it's like you get two perspectives. This is what you're seeing, but at the same time, it's what you're not seeing, because once again, you never have exactly the perspective of the husband. You never have a moment of someone telling, okay, I talked to him and he says this. The only thing you have is when the son actually starts mentioning about the pills, and he gets into the conclusion,
Yep.
and that stuff. So that's quite good, because she doesn't get the spectator in order to be just like, okay, everything is certain. That's something that, especially when it works season, is like everybody wants this kind of film that actually that's a whole revelation, and this is the finale, and this is the only truth. She doesn't do that at all. Not even with the record, not even with that scene. She puts you to two. Then that's about you. Whatever you think about it.
Yeah, I do like that, even though it's very much like, oh, okay, it's like a last minute, like, before we conclude our courts, we have our star witness coming back to go on trial to discuss. I'm like, oh, okay, that's very very interesting that the last minute he decides to go back on trial again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the fact that they don't give you a clear answer as to whether or not she did or did not kill her husband. There's enough facts there to really to argue for one case or the other, but at the same time, you could also refute said arguments, and I think that in of itself makes it a great discussion for film, for people, or at least within a community, for people who watch this kind of movie, where I like to have that kind of discussion of like, what do we think, might have happened? What do we think, did happen, so to speak? Even with we saw recently this past, well, yeah, feels like forever. This past award season with Honora, how, and I'm not going to get into much about the ending of For Honora, but like the ending of For Honora itself is very much dividing a lot of people I've talked with, where they're like, "What did you think happened in that last shot of the movie? What was it?" And I like those kind of movies, even if I may not be a fan of a fair amount of these films that do the ambiguous endings, but if they do it well, then at least it's something I could remember and talk about in detail. And yeah, you're right, though. Going back to the opening of the film, I loved how the film opens up, which I actually think is one of the more, outside of the recording and Milo's little thing he does towards the end of the film. I actually think the opening is one of the better parts for me, at least, because I love how we showcase not just the weird tension between the journalist and Sandra Hüller's character, but then we also have, while they're talking and recording their interview, we have the
The
husband
whole
going upstairs.
music.
Yeah, we have the cover of Pimp, and I love that this movie has made that a cultural song impact of sorts, to the point where when it won the Oscar for screenplay, they played the
And they
instrumental
play.
version. Yeah, that was awesome. I love that, because I was like, "Oh, please play the song." I'm like, "Yes, awesome."
They even
Um,
got to ask her why Justine Tree picked that, and she said that she was like, I have no idea what I wanted to tell you, because even in the trial they say it's a misogynist song, and they say it's an instrumental version, and she was like that whenever someone asks her about it, and after her it says because it's a good song, and she was like, no, I'm not trying to say that,
yeah,
because I mean the context of this of the music, but at the same time, it's like I do agree with the beginning. I mean, the introduction is like you get a whole introduction of everything.
yep,
The character, the husband just trying to be there but not being there, but the music just drives you insane. Sandra Hero's character having sort of attention, then you realize because it's probably because she's bisexual. The son with the dog, it's like there's a lot of information going on at the beginning, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like you have too many information. It's like it fits perfectly with what ends up happening.
Yeah, even with I just realized the husband who dies in the film, Samuel, he doesn't really get a whole lot of speaking lines in the film, and yet he has as much of an impact as Milo and Sandra's characters do. Even though, again, he's not in it a whole lot. In fact, the first time we ever see him in the film is when he's actually dead. So we have
Yeah.
no idea what kind of persona he has outside of outside of the police and lawyer questioning the son and mother. That's it.
No,
And
then you had the two flashbacks. I mean, the one with the when Milo says about the Milo's character about the dog that,
yeah,
I mean, the bills, and then you have, of course, the discussion and the fact that he recorded the discussion because he was trying to write a book and material information. So even if you have that word flashback that somehow trying to pull him as a victim or somehow that he had depression or whatever, you sense a behavior that doesn't make you feel like he's a victim or someone who is suffering. Then you, even if nobody tells you, even Sandra doesn't tell you anything, you somehow feel that he's not the kind of person that you actually want to be friends with.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. A couple other notes I did want to bring up as we're wrapping up here. At least on my end, I'll share some of my final notes on this. I will say, on this rewatch, one of my big issues why, and I think this is part of the reason why I wasn't as in love with the film the first time around. I still like it a lot. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I saw it, and I like the film itself. But I think one of the big issues I have with it is I do admire the slow burn the film does have for the film, especially in the first half where it takes us a while before we get into courts. I don't think we even get to the courts until like an hour into the film. I
Mm-mm.
do wish that it had picked up its momentum of a little bit here and there towards the second half of the film, because I do think it does it does halt a bit for me where I'm like, okay, I'm not quite as intrigued or engaged by this story as I was in the beginning when we started off. But there's somewhere in the middle where it started to slow down for me, where I thought, okay, you could have picked up the speed a little bit. I
Yeah.
get it, you're trying to go for a slow burn, but for this being a 2.5 hour movie, I personally think you could have trimmed a little bit of it, but that's just me. Um,
No, yeah, I have the same impression. I'm trying to recall if Sybil, for example, is that long because I think this is probably the longest film that she ever. No, yeah, Sybil is 1 hour 40 minutes. So
oh
yeah,
wow,
this is definitely the longest film that she has, and yeah, for me it's like you got so many dialogues, and once again, maybe the problem is that those dialogues that I think could have been at least cut off are mostly in English. And for someone, once again, I mean, English is not, everybody can sense that, but English is also not my first language, even though I have much more domain that Justine
no,
Triet.
what a shock! I didn't know your
Yeah.
English wasn't your first language.
But in the sense, like, for me, when you're trying to talk, especially, once again, especially both of them that are not native English speakers, the fact that writing a film that's so long and has so many parts in English, it sends you the vibe that it's something unnatural. So for me, that's the problem. Is that they have certain scenes that it's not that I could cut a whole scene. I could cut somehow little parts, at least a minute or 2 minutes out of that.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, definitely understand. It's shocking. Yeah, that's like this is her longest film she's ever done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she got one sold for Reno that it's, but yeah, I don't think she has ever done such a long film.
Huh.
But once again, when you first watch the film, it's like, okay, I'm quite good for it. Then when you watch it 2 or 3 times, it gets a little bit exhausting for that.
Yeah, because okay, I could
Oh,
have.
they changed. I'm trying to see if this is the longest one and just realized that they changed her Wikipedia page image. And I think she'd be pretty grateful for that
Okay.
because the last one was very, very bad. But yeah, Sybil is 1 hour 40. Yeah, 100 minutes. In bed with Victoria. 97. Yeah, in bed with Victoria. And thankfully, Age of Panic that it's Solferino. It's 94. Yeah, yeah, this is the longest one. Then
I'm
she had a
curious.
couple of documentaries, and once again, the documentaries are not that long.
I'm curious as to why this one had to be the longest one for her. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Huh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's the longest one.
But then again, I remembered even at that season, not just the award season itself, but even some films that summer were like, let's make it as long as possible because we got the people's money. We want them to have more than an hour and a half experience. We want a 2.5 hour film. Like, what was it?
Yeah, and even it started the discussion about that. Why are films so long? And then you got the
Yeah,
following the master list people of 90 minutes films saying, why couldn't get films of 90 minutes? And it's,
yeah. Dial of
But
Destiny
in
was
this,
like nearly 2.5 hours long. Across the Spider Verse was
yeah.
nearly 2.5 hours long. It's like,
Mhm.
you know,
But I think it also happens also because of the. I mean, it's not an action film. Even if you have the whole suicide, the slash murder, whatever of the husband, it's not a. I mean, it's a visual film, yet it's not an action film. It's like you have so many scenes that could actually be turned into more action or more passionately engaging moments, and it's not. So, once again, when you rewatch it, for French people and European public, this type of testing 2 hours and a half of this kind of film just talking and talking they don't care, but for some other publics, objective publics, I don't think in another context the film could actually be liked, at least not from the beginning.
oh yeah, I agree. The other note I did want to bring up, actually, one of my other notes I wanted to bring up was I like the piano music used in the film, not just because of the piece itself being used is very
Hmm.
fitting for the film, but also it's played how the Milo kid would play it. Because even at the beginning, he's fucking up with the notes as the credits are going, and he has to repeat certain sections of it, and it's very much attuned to how the how I gotta remember the kid's name. Daniel would play it, who's played by Milo. Um, and even as the course of the film gets over, or as we get closer to the ending, the the way the piano is played, he gets better at it for the most part. He's still missing a key here and there, but it's still like, oh, sorry
Well,
about that. I have no idea what happened.
that was the spirit of the film.
Okay, I apologize, guys. I have no idea what that was. So, anyways, yeah. So, like I said, really, really good piece of music to use for the film, and again, showcasing Milo getting better as a pianist and slowly getting the notes corrected. So, yeah, I thought that was good. Um, yeah, but yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of other notes. It's just like miscellaneous notes or whatever you want to call them. Just like, uh, not really enough that was like, ooh, we got to discuss about this. Is there any other final notes you want to bring up for Anatomy of a Fall itself before we get to the award section?
No, to be honest, I think we covered a lot. I do agree about the fact that, once again, I'm telling you, she. I went. Again, even though I'm in bed with Victoria, I wouldn't watch it because I don't like that film. But I gotta say it's a miss out of her. But it's like, the script is way too middle-aged women trying to reconnect with her early 20s vibe that I don't quite enjoy that kind of humor in French films. But still, it's like she get, especially when she gets a little bit more dark, as in this film, she gets a little bit resources for every single character, and then you ended up just popping out. Um, but I do also recognize the fact that you had two supporting performances, supporting slash somehow showcase performances that are both the lawyers, the lawyer from the state and the lawyer of Sandra, which I think that are not a typical character at the same time to just playing really good their part. And then people get this whole vibe about, especially about Vincent with Sandra's character. She doesn't explore about it. I mean, the script does not explore anything about it. You just sense a vibe, and that's something. I think that's something quite remarkable also for the approach of characters, especially for actors. For how do actors approach their characters, knowing that they have some certain background, and that every single spectator, whatever you try to concentrate or try to focus on any single of the characters, you sort of feel that or feel the intention, and it's something pretty clear and something that I do highly recognize about Justine Trier whenever she writes a character. You get at least one of the clear intention of the characters, and you get why the actor just tries to work on there. But yeah, itself, it's like, even if you don't like it, even if you think the film, because I've seen so many people, I mean, people that love it and people that hate it, but you have to recognize that the film itself is round. I mean, it's like the film has a beginning, has an ending. Whether you like it or not, the film actually gets its purpose.
Yeah, and yeah, again, it's a film that I would rather have a discussion about rather than just be like, oh yeah, this is a piece of shit movie or so forgettable. Anyways, moving on. It's like those aren't even
It's
interesting
like,
or fun to discuss about. It's just like, okay, whatever. This is the kind of movie, and that's all it is. I wasted 2 hours talking about this or watching
it's a
this.
very Criterion type of film. I mean, it even gets a Criterion own DVD, but it's the kind of film that you go like, okay, it's of course it's gonna have a Criterion treatment
Yeah.
because it's very somehow cinephile driven film. I love it, but it's like it's the kind of film that someone who tries to pretend to be an intellectual would also have a discussion.
Yeah, while we're at it, Criterion release the Maestro. Release Maestro on Criterion. I want. I
So
want
people
to.
could actually, so
Yeah.
people could actually see once again the nose and just complain about the, oh my god, the nose again.
Yeah, I can't wait for that new Bradley Cooper film that's coming out whenever it is this thing on, so that people could bitch and complain about, oh, Cooper's trying to direct. Oh, look at him. It's like you realize
They
how
think
many
that's
other directors, like actor turned directors, have now become directors after him. So, yeah, like whatever. Anyways, so
he's better. Yeah, he's better at the moment. He's better than Robert Redford and Warren Beatty because he doesn't have an Oscar at all. So yeah, he's like
yeah.
he had the bar too high. We all know that the only thing that's not going on with the next Bradley Cooper film, it's a nose. So everybody could actually get quiet.
Yeah, this won't be
Doesn't
like
have
a
a
prosthetic
nose.
thing, as far as we know.
No, no.
Yeah. For all they
Maybe
know
he
that.
has a prosthetic somewhere else. But yeah, his last two films that got somehow buzzed around were Licorice Pizza, that he had a wig. Hideous wig. I know you like that
Oh, that's
character.
right.
And
Yeah.
then in this one, in Maestro, he had a nose. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens next because he's having a supporting character. So we hope he has something different. I don't know.
I mean, if nothing else, we get another Bradley Cooper directed film. But anyways, speaking of
For all the
Maestro,
haters.
yeah, speaking of Maestro competing for awards alongside this, let's just jump right into the awards discussion. So, Anatomy of a Fall premiered at the 76th Cannes Film Festival alongside other Best Picture contenders like The Zone of Interest and Killers of the Flower Moon. Shortly after its screening, Neon had bought the distributing rights to the film and even won the Palme d'Or, as we stated before. It was the third time a female director had won the top prize after Jane Campion's The Piano in 1993 and Julia Ducournau in her film Titan in 2021. Over the fall festival season, it was screened at the Toronto International Film Festival and the New York Film Festival with rave reviews. And it was given a limited theatrical run in New York and LA on October 13th, 2023. On a production budget of $6.7 million, it made over $36 million worldwide, making it a box office hit. Even though it's a mild one, it's still a hit. And with the critical and financial success of the film, Anatomy of a Fall was nominated for several accolades. I'm pretty sure it swept the European Film Awards as well. It's like one of the major
Yes.
precursors it won, which became
Before
very...
the disaster, she went so good that next year they decided to award Emilia Perez.
Yeah, well, if nothing else, the European awards told us 2 years, at least 3 years in a row, with Triangle of Sadness as well. It's like, yeah, we need to pay attention to you guys. And I kept warning you guys about Amelia Perez, but that's a whole other story. That scab is still healing. So, anyways, this was nominated for 5 Oscars: Picture, Director, Lead Actress for Sandra Hüller, Original Screenplay, which it had won, and got nominated for Editing. I should also point out that despite being qualified for the international film submission for France due to its non-English language eligibility, the country decided to push for The Taste of Things as their candidate. One of the major reasons, according to insiders within the French committee, as to why Anatomy wasn't pushed was due to Justine criticizing French President Emmanuel Macron's repression of pension reform protest movements during her acceptance speech at the Cannes Film Festival. Regardless, Taste of Things did not get nominated for international film at the Oscars. Yeah, another thing France isn't that great at is picking their films, and then even when they get
They have
nominated, they still lose.
such a bad luck with that. Such a bad luck. I think 3 years in a row they're having bad luck, because the year before that they picked Titan. Uh, they had the happening, the Audrey One film that won in
Mhm.
Venice, and they decided not to push that one. That was a very much more academic film, and they decided to go for Titan, and Titan, I guess, they only made shortlist, and it was like it was impossible for that film to get nominated. The
Yeah.
following year, we happened with the Days of Things, and this year, thank God it didn't win. So it
Yeah.
was like, I think, 32 years that they haven't. I mean, the last time they won was for Indochin, which is a very mid film for me.
Okay. I'll check it out down the road. I'll let you know. I'll report back to you what my findings are on it. It's gonna take me a while for that. But yeah, and some other records I should also bring up before we get into our questionnaire thing that typically ask the guest. Some of the records I want to bring up for Anatomy in terms of what it broke when it came for Oscar nominations. I want to give a special shout out to Juan Carlos Ollano for the podcast host of the 1 Inch Barrier, for helping me find some of the records that were that year. So this became, stay with me, guys. So this was the first film to without a corresponding international film nomination to get into picture since Il Postino the Postman. It became the first non-English film to be directed by a woman and get a Best Picture nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Justine Triet herself is the second woman nominated for director for a non-English language film after Lena Wertmuller.
Mueller. Mm-hmm.
It was
She's the
for,
yeah.
was it Seven
The
Beauties?
1974. Yeah, I think it was 1974. And Justine Triet is the first French female director to be nominated. Then this year we got
Yep,
the substar Collery for Jacques.
yep, that's right.
She was like, she was breaking a lot of records.
Yeah, I'm looking through. And then yeah,
Yeah, I was.
Justine also became the seventh female director to get nominated for both writing and directing on the same film, and even became the first female director to get a director without a DGA nomination. Her spot was likely taken up. Well, the other two, well, Glazer and Trier were not nominated for DGA. Instead, it was Alexander Payne for The Holdovers and Greta Gerwig for Barbie. And for picture, it was the third time both Palme d'Or, which is the Cannes Film Festival top coveted prize, and the Golden Lion, which was Venice's top prize. It was the first. It was like the third time ever that we had both recipients of their prizes nominated for the same year for Best Picture. In 1980, it was All That Jazz, which was nominated for the Oscars the year before. For the Palme d'Or, it was tied at. And then Atlantic City won the Golden Lion, which was tied with something else, and it competed for the Oscars the next year. And then 2019 with Parasite and Joker, which everyone loved, also produced by Bradley Cooper. So, yeah, and it also became the first time that the both Palme d'Or winner and Grand Prix winner from Cannes were nominated for Best Picture the same year, as Zone of Interest had won the latter prize. So, and the Grand Prix at Cannes is essentially a runner-up, I believe, for the Cannes Film Festival Awards. So, it's like second place trophy essentially. So, yeah. So with all that said, why do you think, Valentina, this managed to win the Oscar for original screenplay over competition like The Holdovers, Past Lives, Maestro, and May December?
I think the original adapted screenplay that year was kind of wild run, because then at the beginning you had the whole Barbie thing, that whether Barbie was going to be an adapted, an original. People were just saying, okay, if Barbie gets an original, got no competition. I disagree with that. I think that you have to start to, with this, you start to value the fact that European voters have substance. And I mean, she won. I mean, before even that, she won the Golden Globe for original screenplay, and
Yep.
she won the Golden Globe for international,
Yep.
foreign language as they call it. She did a massive campaign, and I think Neon had two things. Neon came from last year, the 2 years before that, with big fails in order to get a film in the international list nominations. I mean, they got the Robin Ostlund film, which I love. People hate Triangle of Sadness. I love it. They got nominations, and I think that was the reward for that. They got nominations, which Titan they completely failed. And in this case, I mean, they pushed to the edge. They thought, even at the last minute, everyone thought that Anatomy of a Fall was a secure comedy, choice for the comedy, and then once again the safe choice in order to win international feature. And even though I still disagree with people saying if they got into international feature film, they were probably going to win international and not winning just screenplay, I totally disagree. It was a political thing. Yes, it was a very political thing, because afterwards, I think it was Olivier Assayas, that even said that there was a whole boycott. That Alexander Desplat was even involved. The Ministry of Education, the Prime Minister even of France. That afterwards they all ended up resigning. Not for this particular case, but I mean they were very very mean to Justine Triet, that they pushed in order to boycott. And when she realized that she was not getting, Neon started a campaign in order to get a nomination for Sandra Hüller, who was being pushed actually for 2 films, and once again in order to push for Justine Triet. So she started to focus her campaign someone else, and at the same time she was winning awards when she won the Golden Globe for a category that she wasn't up for at the Oscars. And once again, you had a category that had no front runner. There was original screenplay. So she ended up just getting into there. And in the end, I mean, a lot of people, especially her campaign, I mean, she got the director nomination, which it's impressive. But she started doing a lot of campaign about the script and how she managed to work the script with Sandra Hüller. And even in New York, I think, very early stages of the campaign back in New York, she was everywhere with Sandra Hüller doing the campaign of that. I mean, Sandra Hüller, of course, made a 2 sides campaign. Even at the last minute, people were thinking that she might have gotten a double nomination for Son of Interest. I don't think that was possible, to be honest. Even though with supporting actress wasn't exactly a top category.
No, it sucked.
No, it was very, very... I mean, if Sandra Hüller got in for Son of Interest, I have praise, because it's also very, very intense.
Yeah, I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, but once again, when she got the nomination, she realized that, she knew that she was never competitive in international feature category, and then she got a point in order to be an original screenplay. I think that once again, the category never had a front runner. When people started believing that Barbie was gonna be over there, you had the holdover things about Alexander Payne not campaigning because of very well known reasons. Past Lives. For so many people, I think Past Lives has some sort of a path like what happened with Women Talking, but once again missed a lot of nominations, had the same path, was never a top contender, was never even a contender in the Golden Globes and that stuff. So I think the whole odds went into favor for Justine Triet.
Yeah, I should also point out, though, that Alexander Payne did not write the holdovers. It was David Hemmingson, but still, it's the fact that Alexander Payne was not involved with it, so it's like, all right, we don't really need to give the holdovers the win here. Also, this...
But in the end, I think the holdovers was like the Alexander Payne film. And you had the Divine Joy Rayleigh, and you had the whole thing of whether that Paul Giamatti was going to be competitor against Cillian Murphy, because I wish everyone said that Bradley Cooper was a contender. Unfortunately, he wasn't.
But you know what, though? I'll take Cillian Murphy winning over Paul Giamatti. Not that I don't like Paul Giamatti, but the fact that that's his Oscar win to begin with, I'm like, why? When you have Cillian Murphy right there, and Bradley Cooper, I would argue, is better than Paul, but we could argue about that another day.
I'm completely... I'm at peace with Cillian Murphy winning.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a very good performance. It's a great film. You have to say it. But yeah, he was not a competitor. So once again, like, the holdovers had a very secure Oscar win, again in a very, very bad category, a supporting actress was. So that was it. And once again, you never had like a really, really runner-up. Because the runner-up that you could actually be was the one that ended up nominated for adapted screenplay. That was Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for Barbie. So everything went together. People say it's hard to say, but how much they won. I mean, it's like, okay, it was a very silly win. I don't know, but still, she ended up winning a lot of things. I mean, WGA, she was not even competitive or that, but she won the BAFTA. So she was very present, and once again, she was giving speeches at the right moment when the voting was up. So
Well, even with like going back to what you said earlier about Barbie, though, even if people like, I personally never bought Barbie as a screenplay
no.
contender. Even when I saw it in
Mhm.
July, I thought there's no way. Like, it might get nominated for regardless if it's original or adapted, but I don't see this winning. And I,
They don't have. I mean, the only thing they have is the monologue that ended up giving the nomination for America Ferrera. They have
yeah,
nothing else. And I
but
like Barbie. I mean, not
I
for
I
being
do
a
too.
girl's girl.
But also too, it's like I'll bring this up probably down the road. I'll bring this up again. But since 2009, there's only been one movie that has managed to win an Oscar for screenplay in either in the original category, and
Mm,
that was for Django Unchained. And Django Unchained was an entirely different situation than where Barbie was in.
mm,
And if nothing else, that year in particular, Anatomy of a Fall and American Fiction were given out as screenplay prizes more as consolation to their directors. Where, much like, well, Cord Jefferson wasn't even nominated for director, but it was very much a case of like, look, you're not going to win much else. Your actors aren't going to win. You're not winning picture because Oppenheimer is just way too strong as a picture director contender. But we can give your film the consolation prize for screenplay, which is usually what happens most
yeah.
times, especially with these lone screenplay winners we've had. I also want to point out Jack Mahanes, who's been on the show a couple times. He wrote a whole article. Check it out if you guys haven't gotten a chance to on Gold Derby, where he talked about how the Academy from time to time loves giving screenplay wins to
Hmm.
suspenseful films with twists and turns, such as The Crying Game, Promising Young Woman, Get Out, and Conclave was another one we had discussed recently. Uh, so this is like another one of those where it's got a lot of twists and turns throughout the film, and that is something that I this was the film that made me realize, okay, next time we have a twisty turn type movie, it might have a shot at winning the screenplay category depending on what the competition is. And the fact that you're right, like this had no like front runner, so to speak, from the get-go. It wasn't even like a two-horse race really, except for like
No, no, no,
maybe
no.
holdovers
Everyone
could
was
beat
pretty
it.
distant.
Yeah, or
But
like
even
past lives could do it, yeah.
uh, no, but I even do agree on three things. But one of them is that Justin Jude, even the best director nomination was somehow a surprise, and then not so a surprise. But the thing is that her whole campaign was based over the script. Whenever she talked, she didn't talk about the process of directing. She talked about the process of the whole script, how she wrote the script, how everything. I mean, of course, the idea began with script, with her own script.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm saying because in every single interview, she's the one speaking, not Arthur Herrera. But also because Arthur had a parallel campaign. I think he was also nominated for a César the same year for supporting actor for a film that he filmed like 2 or 3 years before that. But whenever she was mentioned was like the process of how that film and how that script she managed to write it in a very special time for her. So everything about her campaign was focused on that. She wasn't, because she never could focus on doing a campaign international feature. So she was doing the campaign for that with Sandra Hiller, and even Sandra was always talking about the whole script and the process and every single actor about it. But even I do even think if Barbie was debated for original screenplay, ended up being nominated, of course, alongside them. I don't think the hype for Barbie was that big, that massive, in order to be quite of a competitor. And once again,
Yeah.
you had very special things that, even though the script of Anatomy, it's very well done for every single character, it's a two-person show. It's Justine Triet and Arthur Harari as a combo, and then Sandra Hiller. And Sandra was also nominated, something that didn't happen with Barbie. You got the supporting actors nominations for Barbie, but you never got the star, which was Margot Robbie. A lot of people were saying, and myself included, that Margot did more of a campaign for production,
For
and she ended
producing
up
it,
being
yeah.
nominated. Exactly, and she ended up being nominated for that, and that's it. So she got the nominations that she wanted, and she got the campaign that she wanted. In this case, it was totally different. Past lives. If you think about the thing that for the budget and the box office, AnatomyofaFall was a hit for a foreign film. Once again, it's a French film. And people, especially I think in the US, they don't encourage to go to watch a French film especially this type of niche film. It's not, I mean, not a niche, but at the same time, French films are quite of a niche still. So it was a hit. And Past Lives, I do think, even though it's a very good story and everything together, it's so subtle and something that you have seen before. In this case, is quite a remarkable difference. So once again, I think it was a sort of a moment and a vibe that ended up winning, but she got all the odds in their favor.
I'm also looking at not that they're like a big industry prize, so to speak, but I'm looking at the Independent Spirit Awards. They gave Best Screenplay to American Fiction, which
Mm-hmm.
beat out both Holdovers and Past Lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then May December won its like consolation for screenplay prize. So yeah.
So
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's also the thing. When Past Lives didn't compete against Anatomy of a Fall, because it was nominated or whatever, the whole point was actually put more effort in American fiction.
yeah, and even at the Critics' Choice, they gave it to Barbie over Past Lives and Holdovers, and also
Yeah,
too, like even like that was also a
they
year.
gave Wicked an award for Best Director this year. The Critics' Choice are like,
Yeah, yeah, I did that. That's a whole. I cannot wait to discuss that year down the road because I'm gonna have so much fun discussing that.
they only predict, to my taste, they only could predict correctly Jessica Chastain. So
Yeah.
everybody say, no, Jessica Chastain is not winning. There you go.
Well, you can thank SAG for that. But regardless,
And the Critics' Choice.
yeah. But regardless, what was it? Yeah. But even WGA, which this is also the first year in a while where we had WGA come out after the Oscars, and that was a whole writer strike issue, where even even though the strike had ended just in time for films to compete, there were not enough films eligible because of the deadlines they had. They didn't have enough time to push out for. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that was the reason why they just delayed it until after the
No,
Oscars.
and also Anatomy of a Fall. She did campaign. She could campaign. She campaigned at that moment. I repeat, the too much time campaign because she's not part of WGA. So
Yeah,
Justine Triet was just hanging around. She didn't care anything.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure she's not a part of the DGA anyway, so she's fine.
No.
Um,
I think the only one that is part of the DGA right now as a French director is Audrey Diwan, that she was nominated for Best New Director or something. And even I do remember Audrey Diwan, the director, happening. Then when she got nominated for Best New Director, someone called her and she was in the car. She was like, "What is a WGA?" So
okay,
that's how much they do care about it.
okay, gotcha. Um, but yeah, so but you're right though. The moment that this won the Critics' Choice, not Critics' Choice, Golden Globe Prize for screenplay, it was like, yeah, Anatomy's got it. It was even funny because I remembered at the time I didn't have the balls enough to do this, but I actually put on my rankings list on Gold Derby. I had put Past Lives at number 1 and then number 2 Anatomy of a Fall for screenplay. Everyone else had Anatomy of a Fall like number 5, number 6. And I was like, really? No one put it that high. I was like, the only person I could find within my circle that put it like that high at like number 2. I got it wrong at the end of the day, but still, I was like, okay, I was a lot closer than I expected. Um, but yeah, but yeah, no. The moment it won screenplay Golden Globes, it's like, yeah, your fate's sealed. You're gonna win screenplay. Hell, even when it got the PGA nomination with Zone of Interest, I was like, yep, these two are totally getting in for Best Picture. Anatomy of the Fall has definitely got screenplay locked down, so long as it's got the BAFTA win, which it did, and Bob's Your Uncle. That was pretty much it. And then WGA went with the holdovers just because of what films were ineligible there. Um,
Yeah.
and also David Hemmingson, I think, is a TV writer, which is what allowed in something past year like Don't Look Up to win because David Sirota and Adam McKay are television writers and they're respected by the TV branch there, so it made sense. Um, as to why David Hemmingson also won too, but so. But yeah, and then as for the other categories, picture, director, editing, they were going to go to Oppenheimer. We don't really need to discuss about those 3 categories. Lead actress, though, we might have an interesting discussion here with this.
I knew you were going out there.
Yeah, because I almost forgot. I'm like, what else was there we could talk about? Oh, yeah, I got it. Let's talk about the category that everyone was so pissy about on film Twitter. And they were pissy
And
about again this past year. So,
Yeah,
Um,
myself included. But anyway,
yeah,
uh, I
but
am more pissed off this year rather than last year. But still,
yeah, so yeah, Emma Stone won the Oscar for lead actress over Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and I think her name is Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla.
no, it wasn't Annette Bening. It
No,
wasn't
no,
Annette
no, no,
Bening.
no, 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 no. Just ignore. No, no, no. Annette Bening didn't happen. No, there's no way. No, no. Annette Bening. Yeah, that Naiad movie, that wasn't a thing. What are you talking about?
What an incredible film,
No.
Naya. Nobody
Ugh.
watched it
Yeah, no one except the
except the.
Academy and Netflix, the members that Netflix paid off to watch it.
Yeah, I think Netflix just put it out together. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's Annette Bening, and then you have Maestro, and he's gonna get some nominations. So just
yeah.
watch this.
Yeah, I'm glad that Maestro got in for the Best Picture nomination over Naiad because I would have lost my shit, and not in a good way, if Naiad
Nah,
got
that would have
nominated for
been
picture.
insane. That would have been insane. That'd be like, okay, okay, get the whole nose debate, whatever, blah blah blah. You can hate Bradley Cooper, whatever you want, and it's quite funny because this year people were like, we were too mean to Bradley Cooper, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. But Nayat was like, I watched like, I don't know, 15 minutes out of that film, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? So it just kind of gave up.
Which film? Naiad.
Nayat, no, but
Yeah.
I'm Maestro.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I remembered you and I both really liked Maestro a lot.
I'm actually sinking with that ship. I don't care. Bradley Cooper is my man. I don't care. I'm in for him. I'm gonna defend him. We're both gonna defend him, whatever he does.
Yeah.
I support his wrongs and his rights. Uh, yeah, Film Tuna every single year is pissed off with the Best Actress category. If not, talk about the Tonys for Best Actress in a Musical this year. But I have to be honest. I enjoy both of them. Emma Stone in Poor Things and Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall. Of course, everybody knows more Emma Stone. Everybody's gonna know a little bit more of Sandra Hüller now, and I've been following her career. I mean, her career is so extensive, it's kind of impeccable, so it's quite impossible to just try to follow up her everything. She's mainly worked, yeah, in German, in France, blah blah blah. And now she's working with Gonzalo Iñárritu. She's doing the Ryan Gosling film. She's got a bunch of things going on also. I think they're equally good. I never got the hype of Lily Gladstone. I'm so sorry. But I don't like Killers of the Flower Moon that much. I think it's a great film. It's good. I don't get the hype of the performance. So I was never disgusted with the fact that Emma Stone won. I actually, in my mind, Emma Stone has 2 Oscars. Yes, okay, but one of them has for The Favorite, because for me that's her greatest performance nominated. But she's really good. She something that Yorgos Lanthimos has done with her, especially in The Favorite and in Poor Things. She has taken out of her comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the book, their book is really good. The character is very well structured. Even in the screenplay is very well structured. Even a little bit different as the character is more presented. It's a two-side character because it has two sides of personalities. She's very physical. She has everything, and she does everything that the Academy somehow enjoys. So I'm not against it. I think it's a very, very, very great Oscar-winning performance. I do not agree with Lily Gladstone. She's good. I'm not saying she's bad. For me, it's just I mean, if she could have won, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Sandra Hüller. Yes, of course, my vote at that time had been Sandra Hüller. If I have to think about it now, I would have second thought between both Emma Stone and Sandra Hüller. Because, once again, I'm more of a fan of the film for Justine Triet rather than just for the performance. Okay. With Poor Things happens something completely different. I do enjoy the performances even more than the whole.
Have you seen Poor Things since you last saw it during the award season, out of curiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Mostly
Same
because
here.
I was reading the book. I bought the book in London, so I decided to just for out of curiosity how much of the book is actually quite resemblance. It's quite different still. It's a very, very good adaptation, I guess. But once again, I think the character is more finessing since in the book, and the character shown, especially the beginning of the character, that actually the whole plot twist that it's of course at the beginning of the film is presented in a certain different way. And once again, I do respect a lot Emma Stone as a performer. I think her Oscar for La La Land is hideous. But in this case, it's like you cannot say, even though you don't like it or whatever, whatever. She's really good at it. She does everything. It's a very physical character. It's a very different. It's an anti. Once again, if you want, it's an anti-hero. It's not a very verbal character because it's most about what she does with her body and how she embodies the character rather than what she says, because she has not too much to say.
Yeah, I recently saw it a couple months ago. I think it was on Amazon Prime. I rewatched it, which I hadn't seen since the award season itself. But I really liked Emma Stone's performance a lot more on a rewatch, because there was a lot of layers to that performance that she
Mm-hmm.
gave, both in her accent and also with how the character progresses over the film. And it's quite impressive with what she was able to do, despite this being a nearly impossible role to pull off. Like, this is the type
Yeah.
of role that could destroy your career if you fuck it up. But she managed to.
Yeah, because it's very stereotypical if you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very mean what happens to her character, and she ends up. I wouldn't say you empathize with the character, but at the same time, it's like you do understand what's happening and how she's actually. It's a very biological thing. It's a very mental thing in the sense that she doesn't have control of everything she's happening. She's how discovering a whole new world.
I,
So it's very bizarre,
mhm.
horrific, I guess, but it's not bad. You just can't say, okay, this is way too wrong.
I also wonder if part of the reason why we've gotten very, quote unquote controversial lead actress winners, especially with Mikey Madison, Emma Stone, and Michelle Yeoh in certain degrees,
Mm.
uh, is the fact that all three of them are not just in top three Best Picture contenders overall that year, but they are also in their own way having this tightrope balance of sorts. Like, one false move, the entire audience hates it, and they are very divided. Like, even there are people that I know who do not like Michelle Yeoh's win for Everything Everywhere at Once, and they thought, oh my god, Kate Blanchett should have won for Tar. Same thing with this year, where they thought, oh, they should have given it to Sandra or Lily, or even this past year we just saw it with Mikey Madison. There are people who are like, oh, Fernanda Torres should have won, or Demi Moore should have won the Oscar. And I think for these voters, and even with the Academy branch, there's something that they admire about those performances and respect a lot more than someone like Blanchett and Tar, Huller and
Anatomy.
AnatomyofaFall. I almost forgot the movie. Hence, yeah. Even though we're talking about the damn movie, and then Mikey Madison with or what was it, Demi Moore with The Substance, where they're very cold characters where they respect, but they're not emotionally attached. Like, there's a fair amount of audience, voters especially, and audience members I've chatted with, where they're like, I respect the performance, but I'm not emotionally attached to this story,
Mm-hmm.
or like, oh my god, this is such a brave, interesting, career decision that they put onto themselves to challenge themselves as actors. And I think that's part of the reason why we got the lead actress winners we've gotten lately. Although I do love I'm not gonna lie, I do love the tea sipping with these last few winners, especially with people bickering and arguing with each other, and then being like, oh yeah, hot take, I actually prefer the winner we got her, or hot take, there should have been a third contender. I do love that, and
Yeah,
then they're all just
but I
bitching and arguing with each other.
no, but I think this specifically year. I mean, I think everybody tells you it's a two-side road. I think it's three, especially this year. I mean, everybody was like, okay, this year the discussion was very much impressive, but you had the people that were actually encouraging Mickey Madison to win for Nora, people that were actually supporting the substance, and people who were actually supporting Fernando Torres, which is, I think, out of the three, is the most emotional one,
Yeah.
of course, for obvious reasons. The past year, I think the debate was much more a choose, I think, between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone, because in the last moments, people were actually saying Lily Gladstone was gonna win. I have a thing, and then you had the free side, the ones that would actually trying to be special, me included, just saying I prefer Sandra Hüller. But I think every single person who actually were more attached to Sandra Hüller were okay with either Lily or Emma. If I have to say today, actually after rewatching both, actually the three films, I do agree with that. You get to be more, I guess, emotionally attached to Emma Stone in the sense that not only about what she does with the two characters, because she had two characters, but also once again how she portrays the character, how she embodies the character,
Yeah.
and even the treatment, how she talks about the character, how she talks about the whole process and everything. It's very respectable, very respectful about how she approaches. I I do agree that Lily's good. Don't get me wrong. I think four of them, because I'm not gonna discuss Nayat, they're pretty
Yeah.
good at it. If you think about who's the one that was most emotional, for me, that's definitely Carey Mulligan. Because the character, I mean, Felicia Montelar was very, especially the of course, the last moments of her, and how I think even a lot of people hate Maestro, but how the character is presented, how it's treated. It's a love story, but at the same time, it's a love story about not only about Jelena Bernstein and George Stern, but also about the sons, the Bernstein kids, how they feel about her, the memory of their mother. With Lily Gladstone, is like, for me the problem is basically the script. There's something wrong. There's something that they try to present this character in a very, very powerful way, but at the same time just crashing out with the circumstances, and there's something wrong. But also, I mean, she does a very, very good performance. I couldn't personally pick out of her, but you have to think about the fact that you had two big, massive actors surrounding her: Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. So that's something that the performance, of course, and it's the only female character. It's very, I mean, everybody likes Martin, but he has such a hard time directing, especially women. Uh, then Gladstone has done a lot of things that are quite good, but for me, there's something I would say it's passionate. It's something, especially with Stone. Stone is very passionate performance. Then you had, for example, Carey Mulligan. It's a very emotional performance. You had Hüller, that's something in between. It's someone new, but at the same time tells you a very different story, gets you into a different emotion. With Lily Gladstone, it's like she has everything out of every single emotion, but doesn't get you 100% of one of them.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from with Lily Gladstone. I remembered at the time predicting that she would win just because she had won the SAG award
Yeah, I
and
thought
she'd
the
won
same thing.
everything except she wasn't nominated for BAFTA and she lost Critics'
Mm.
Choice. Um, but I learned my lesson with the Mikey Madison case and I just said go with the strongest film of the lineup and
Mm.
that's what happened. Yeah, but yeah, so yeah,
Killers of
that
the Flower was not a competitor alongside from aside from Best Actor, wasn't a competitor in any other category. So that was a problem.
yeah, that was also a big issue where it's like, okay, you're not nominated for screenplay, Kills of the Flower
Mm.
Moon, and your lead actor couldn't even get in. So is this
No.
going to be like
And
another Gangs of New York
she was
Irishman?
trying to
And
be yeah, she was
no,
trying to be strong with no better chances. She wasn't supportive of anything because people were talking about, okay, Leonardo was having her back. Yeah, 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 but there's not support.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, that's pretty much the only major thing I wanted to bring up from my end. Would you have nominated Anatomy of a Fall for anything else outside of the 5 nominations it got? I, I, I actually do like the supporting actor lineup that we got. I would have liked to have found some way to get Milo to get more mentions, if nothing else. Maybe it's some of these other precursors like BAFTA. I don't know if BAFTA actually went for him. I can't remember.
No,
They
no, no,
didn't.
no, no,
Okay.
no. I do agree with the supporting. I have a thing is like every single time I rewatch the film, I find something different about the supporting actors. Milo is great. The actor, I don't recall the name of the actor playing the prosecutor, the attorney from the stage.
Yeah.
But Swan Lott, who's the one who plays Vincent, I think he's terrific in it, and he could have been a very, very good contender for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, he was good in the movie. Um,
He was really good.
yeah, it would have been nice if they found a way to get a best good boy award nomination for Messi for the dog.
Miss is really good. And
Yeah.
he was the star. I think if Anatomy of a Fall was a hit, it was definitely because of that poor dog was everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like the dog, and that was the other thing I didn't even mention in our review for it is that I also like that the dog was not only well trained, but he wasn't just like an average dog. It's like, oh, here's him being sad or him being very emotional. It's like, no, he has actually used, as you said, he's used as a purpose to the narrative. He isn't just there as an emotional support for the Daniel character, but also is trying to prove a point for Daniel's case for maybe it was the fact that the father wanted to kill himself.
No,
So
and yeah, the dog had his own storyline, and also
yeah.
I remember that Justine Triet did not like him at first because he was a very pretty dog.
Oh.
So he was like, "Oh, he's really nice," and so that she thought that the attention was gonna be a lot over him, even if the camera wasn't actually pointing out at him. So she went in an ugly dog. That was her request. I want an ugly dog. When they introduced Messi, she was quite reluctant about it, and they like just tried to watch him, and he had such a great connection with Milo that was like, okay, that's it, and ended up perfect. I mean, the dog itself, it's amazing in the scenes. I mean, the whole scene, for example, that he has, like, he's just looking at the camera, complete silence, and you just, it's terrific. And even of course the pills situation, the dog, it's terrific in it.
Definitely. Yeah, I like I said, I don't really have much else to add that we already haven't added already before. Just it's a good film. I'm glad it. Obviously, it sounds like you're happy it won the screenplay prize, right?
I'm quite happy, especially as once I'm telling you that I'm sort of a fan of Justine Triet. I think she's quite a remarkable director.
Mm.
Once again, filmmaker. She does a great job. I'm actually eager to see their next chapter because now everybody in Hollywood wants to work with her, and apparently she's pulling out together. And I wouldn't say an all star cast, but somehow she's pulling out together first English film with probably an American star. Who knows who? Because I heard so many actors who want to work with her. Julianne Moore, Jessica Chastain, for example. I remember, but I really hope that she stays faithful to herself. For example, with Virginia Fury, I think she's even more of a lady in later rather than Sandra Hüller. I know she wants to work with Sandra Hüller. I bet Sandra Hüller has a lot of projects now going on. So for me, it was a shock, was a surprise, like just saying, "Oh my God, this is happening."
Yeah.
I was like a bit because it's quite different. It's quite different, and also to have this kind of filmmakers that completely different, completely off the zone of the Hollywood comfort zone, getting into the conversation. So yeah, I think I'm quite more fond of the fact that everything surrounding the afterwards of the film rather than just the film itself.
Definitely. Yeah, but yeah, no. I like I said, I'm okay with this winning screenplay at the Oscars. Not really a terribly great lineup, but yeah, like it's. I'm okay with this. Like, sure, I more passionate about Maestro than this? Sure, but at the same time, I like the fact that Justine Triet, by giving her the Oscar, it gets her an opportunity to do more projects that someone like Bradley Cooper at this point in time, he doesn't need a screenplay Oscar. Like he's gonna get another film financed by his own name and nomination ranking. Like he's well
I'm
liked and
probably not
respected.
getting an Oscar anytime soon or whatever. Whenever he's gonna win an Oscar, he's gonna win for the most what the fuck film.
Yeah,
I betcha.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those like, okay, come on, whatever. So I'm okay with Justine Triet winning the Oscar for this. It's fine. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything else to add. I think we could just wrap up this episode if it's all right with you. Before we officially sign off, I'd like to thank you once again, Valentina, for coming on to the show to discuss Anatomy of a Fall. Is there anything you'd like to plug in or where our listeners can follow you along after the show is done?
You can follow me in every social media, especially on X. formerly known as Twitter, Starcovich. That's my. So yeah, you got everything over there. I'm eager to see what I'm gonna be passionate next for. I'm just celebrating the Tony, the Stars Nook Tony. So
Yeah.
for a couple of no, now the Emmys. Yeah, we're gonna see what happens with the Emmys.
Yeah, and for the record, the next couple episodes that we'll be putting up, they're going to be recorded a little bit in advance, but that's what happens when you're trying to get caught up on the show and making sure you have all the episodes ready in time. So yeah, but yeah, we got a lot of things coming for the show, so that's part of the reason why we're recording these things ahead of schedule. But yeah, as for me, you can follow myself and the show through Linktree under at Matthew995, where you can follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same side, I provided a link for where you can listen to more episodes of the show through Spotify and YouTube. And if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we're arrange that happening soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.